This is my new gun, Winchester SXP. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the SXP. Very similar to the SX3, ergonomically. The stock and the butt pad and the fore end and the rib is all the same as the SX3. And like the SX3, it shoots very flat when you're shooting. It will go pretty much exactly where you point it. Unlike my Browning over and under, which tends to shoot a little bit higher than you aim, so you have to allow for it. So this is very good for that. But obviously, being a rough pump action, it's quite durable. As in, the whole barrel is Cerakoted, which is sort of painted. Doesn't need any oiling at all. The inside of the barrel's chrome lined, so the only bit of the gun you do clean is the barrel. Being a pump action rather than a semi, there's no gases going anywhere or anything like that. When it's locked, it's locked. So effectively, it's just like shooting a double barrel shotgun. There's no dirt that's going to get anywhere else. So it's good for that. The only thing that's different with this particular pump action is that, unlike any other pump action that I've seen, it actually does some of the pumping for you. When you fire, and if I can show you like here, when you fire, it comes back about that far automatically, and you just sort of finish it like that. Now that can be off-putting, and I know when I bought this gun, I was worried that that was going to be a problem. But actually, when you're shooting, when you're actually pulling the trigger, it makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. The only thing that it can cause a problem with is that you might short stroke it, or almost, if you stop like that, you might forget to pump it, basically. So there is a bit of a learning curve to it. It is a bit pointless, in my opinion, but it's just part of the way it is. As I said, it's very durable. It's nice to have something that you can just chuck in the mud, it can get rained on. It really doesn't matter. And I bought this for £330, and that was with, second-hand, but that was with this magazine extension. Now that magazine extension gives this 11 shots in capacity, so it's great for practical shotgun. And even though it does add a bit of extra weight on the barrels, unlike most dedicated practical shotgun race guns, this really is quite balanced. It's something you can swing through, and it will do the job. It's very similar to an SX3. In fact, I went out shooting with it this morning, and if you look here... Oh, it's work. Squirrel. You can see how I got on. I must admit I wasn't expecting the squirrel. That was a bit of a surprise. I've never had that in a pigeon hide before. But there he was, so let him have it. Did the job great. No real complaints there, to be honest. It's obviously not as balanced and as nice as my over and under, but it's pretty good. It's not bad at all. And obviously when you're pigeon shooting, you're not going to top it up all the way to the end in terms of shells. So putting, say, I don't know, 4 in, something like that, it's nicely quite balanced, so it's pretty good. The gun itself takes down really easily. It's a very simple mechanism, and you won't have any problems really cleaning it, doing maintenance on it, that sort of thing. You can take it completely to bits. And if you look at the next part of this video, you'll see how I got on with that. Right, to take this down, it's dead easy. The first thing you need to do is remove the pump back. Now to do that, there's this little tab here. This is so you can pull the pump back. If you press that, allows you to pull the pump back without having previously fired it. Now once you've done that, if you look further up here, normally there's like a sort of cap on the end if this was a section 2 or if it was a standard section 1, but obviously you can see I've got this big tube here because this has had a magazine extension, but I just unscrew that. This does sometimes come a bit loose with excessive shooting, I found on mine, so I'm probably going to put some Loctite on it. You might have heard that just fly off. Be careful of that, because this spring that goes behind the follower has some tension under it. Now you can see now I've done that, the barrel will just come straight off, and there it is. all done. Now, if you're just going to clean it, that's probably all you need to do. But I'll put that to one side. I'll pick up the mag extension, which I just chucked on the floor by accident. So there's those two bits. Now the next bit, if you want to go further to clean the bolt, you need to take the pump section off. Now you can't do that without taking the trigger mechanism out. So if I just pull the pump forward like that, now here you can see here there's a takedown pin there and there, just like a AR-15 has, I guess. Now you might need a punch to get this out if you've bought one of these new, but once you've done it a few times it loosens up, and to be honest on this one it comes out fairly easily. In fact I'm using a paintbrush, so if I just push that, it does tend to come out better one side or the other. In fact I'm going to do it the other side I think. So if I just push that, you can see on the other side he's just popped out, so just take that out. I'll push it a bit more. You can see that the pins come out, and now this entire trigger housing will just come out. Now if you look in here, this is where all the action happens. You don't really need to do anything to this cleaning. Maybe just get a cotton bud in there just to give it a rub down occasionally. But to be honest, this gun doesn't need a lot of cleaning because the outside of the barrels, or the barrel, sorry, and the action and things are all Cerakoted, or whatever it is the Americans call it, so it's just waterproofed, so you don't need to oil it. If you do put oil on it, it kind of ruins the finish a bit. So all you need to do really to clean is just the inside of the barrel, and that's chrome lined as well, so it's very good for if you're shooting in unpleasant conditions. But either way, I'll put that to one side. Now you need to get the bolt out, which you should now be able to do because I've taken the trigger housing out. So I'll just pull this forward, that will just come off, and there we have the pump with the arms and the bolt. So I'll just put that down for a second. You can see on here, this is just an empty shell now, like nothing to it really. Very simple sort of design, but very effective too. So that's that. Now if you do want to clean the bolt, that's the top of the firing pin. If you just press this down, it should come off, yeah. Now it's good to keep your finger on that because if you don't, it's likely to ping the firing pin across the room. So you can see there, you have to focus, that's the firing pin. So you can give that a bit of an oil or a clean if you want. Just put that there. And then the bolt, it doesn't actually come out, but you can see it's a very unusual mechanism with the Winchester. It's got a rotating bolt, but yeah, you can take that spring out and just give that a clean down, which is what I'm going to do now, and then I'll see if I can get to put it back together again. So as you can see, you won't have any problems taking it down and getting it apart, looking after it. I have heard some horror stories where people have said that they bought these brand new and they've basically shot them, pulled it back, it's cocked, and as they pull the pump forward, it just goes off. And yet it will still click if they pull the trigger. That's a bit of a worry. It's not something I've ever experienced with mine, but apparently it does go on. I can only imagine, if you remember in the last bit where I took it apart, that firing pin may have been, maybe, I don't know, a bit too long, manufacturing problem, or maybe, I don't know, it just wasn't seated properly or something like that. So it's important to inspect it and just make sure that it's sort of all as it should be. But don't be afraid of it. As you saw, it's very, very easy to take apart, very easy to clean, and it's good to sort of do these things just to sort of familiarise yourself and check for any sort of little problems, really. It uses the Invector Plus choke system, which is exactly the same choke system as Browning use. So it's good for that, because I can, even though this didn't come with any spare chokes, it should have done if it was new, but being second hand they've obviously lost them or whatever. But I can put the chokes out of my over and under in this, which, it performs very well. I've done some practical shotgun with it, which I'll show you in a moment. Performed really, really well, no complaints at all. The only problem I did have was occasional problems cycling, the odd jam, and that's because of the high brass shells, not because of the power, but if you put shells in this that have got particularly long brass, it does occasionally, every, I don't know, 20 shots or so, you'll get the odd jam. So bear that in mind. I've done some slug shooting with it. If you look behind me, that was my group. Not fantastic, but that was at 50 metres, in my defence. And to be fair, you know, I'm just using the bead here. If you put a scope on this and so on, it would probably perform a lot better. But something that I need to sort of explain a myth really that a lot of people believe. I was shooting slugs through this with a 3/4 choke, approved modified choke. No problems at all. That was the group I got using that choke. There's no safety issues. You know, people often think that a gun's going to explode if you shoot it through a slug through a choke barrel. It's just not true at all. Cylinder bore is better because it will give you a better ballistics in terms of the spinning of the slug. But having a choke, it's not a problem. Don't worry about it. Just stick them in and have a go with it. For that anyway, as I said, it performed brilliantly. And even using slugs, I didn't really notice it coming back that far, or even at all, if I'm honest. It really didn't cause me any issues. But either way, like I said, I've done some practical with this. So if you look at the next part of this video, you'll see how I got on.
Clear.
So as you can see, it's a cracking gun, had a great time, worked really well. It's a bit of a jack of all trades. Being a Section 1 shotgun, it's a little bit more open than with a rifle because this is open ticket, so I can shoot this wherever I like, that I've got permission. And that's really useful to know. So it's a good gun I can use for almost any situation. So if you've never thought about getting a pump and you're one of these semi-auto guys, think about it. It saves you a lot of money and it's far less likely to go wrong. So either way, hope you enjoyed that. Like and subscribe.